Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Stars Like Us. I am your host, Aliza Kelly. I apologize for sounding a little froggish today, everyone. I am having a really bad allergy week, as it turns out. I got a notification on Monday that said, experts say that allergies are going to start earlier and stay longer and be worse due to climate change. And it was like as if like it's not hard enough to already be in this moment when everything seems so stressful, but now you're also going to be sneezing with postnasal drip all along the way. So I apologize to everyone for my audio, but that is not the case with our friend Mystic Michaela. Our guest today is an Aries Sun, Gemini Moon, Virgo Rising, who I am so absolutely, truly thrilled to have on the show. The amount of requests that I have been getting to interview Mystic Michaela has been going on for years. For those who are unfamiliar, Mystic Michaela is an author, podcast host, and fourth generation psychic medium who specializes in reading auras, which are the colorful life force energies around individuals. Her passion is guiding people through spirit to live their own authentic lives. Michaela, I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so excited to be on. Thank you so much, Aliza, for having me. This is fun, and I'm so excited to just talk with you and chat.
So, fourth generation, can you tell us more about that?
So in my family, I was raised Irish Catholic, but we also had this little side secret, and it was a lot of the people in my family are psychic. And it wasn't something that was like advertised or anything because the whole Catholic thing. So it was very hidden and shush until my mom and her brother and some cousins kind of were like, you know what, like we're gonna, grow out of that, evolve from that. So growing up with that kind of duality in a way, like normal people with quotes around it versus like our secret psychic abilities that we all know exist or whatever, nothing was ever shut down, which I think was like very helpful for me as a child and coming into, because I never dismissed it, or I always knew it meant something. I just didn't want to do it actually. It found me because like I went through college and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be a psychic because I know how other people perceive it. I know that it's not something that I guess like people think is real, or they think you're a scammer, or they think you're lying, or you're just looked at funny, or people don't understand it. And I didn't want that because I'm very empathic and it was stressful for me. So I went to school for something completely different. I have my bachelor's and master's in Spanish education. So I was a teacher. I was a Spanish middle school teacher for a really long time and I was just suppressing a lot of these gifts. And with the colors, the aura colors, I always saw them. So I didn't know what they really meant. I would just always see them. And like all these things, and I tell all my listeners this, I'm sure you do too, the more you study these things, the more it's like a muscle, like the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So I was teaching and I'm like, oh, I see all these colors around the kids like I always do, but now they're making sense to me. Now they mean something. Now they're telling me how each kid needs to learn, actually. So I was differentiating instruction based on the colors I was seeing around the kids. Like yellow aura kids need to focus on grammar instruction. Purple aura kids like to, do something artistic and they'll learn the vocabulary better. And red kids need competition. If I play Jeopardy or something, they're really into it. They're going to learn. So I was using all that and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was getting stronger and stronger. But then I was getting messages with it, because when you as you know, go into someone's energy, it's not just, you never know what you're going to get, so like the messages come in when you open yourself up to that. So I would get all these messages, but it wasn't my place to share that. I was a teacher, not, a psychologist or any or therapist or a psychic or a reader. I couldn't exactly tell the parents coming in like, hey, your kid, is blue, but you're treating him like he's red. So there's like, whatever. So I couldn't do that. So it was really pent up inside of me. I was getting very anxious and very stressed. Fast forward to now. So there's just, it's been a journey. And I feel like growing up in a family that didn't shut it down helped me a lot. So I tell a lot of people, like, don't shut it down with your kids. You know, just, you don't have to agree or disagree, just don't shut it down.
So how did you go from teaching to where you are today? What was that transition?
So I was very unhappy. Like, I loved the kids, you know, I love kids are such authentic energy. I actually liked being a Spanish teacher because it was fun. But all the other, I think it was like the schedule, the routine, the monotony, the fact that I wasn't listening to things that I needed to listen to, it was really just building up inside of me. I was getting very stressed and I just hit a wall. And I have a purple aura. I call it a purple bomb moment. A purple bomb moment is when you're not like when you're purple aura and you're not like listening to yourself enough. And what happens is you do something like really dysfunctional and probably not the best way. So I legit walked out one day, like actually left the building and like didn't come back. I mean, it was a long time boiling up, but it shocked everybody. I was on my lunch break. I just didn't come back. And
it was a long lunch.
they were like, Megan, like, where are you? And my name's Megan Michaela. Megan, where are you? Anyway, so that's awful. And nobody should, I mean, don't take my example. It wasn't a great thing, but I went through a couple of years where I'm like, I don't know what to do. And really coming to, listen, I didn't want to live this lifestyle right from the start of it, because I didn't want people to judge me. That was a big issue for me. I didn't want people's feedback. I didn't want their preconceived notions. I didn't want to feel any of that. When I let all that go and I started focusing on person to person to person, who can I help? Who one-on-one I started doing email readings. So I was just like, I think like 2 years of unemployment and just being like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, you know what, let me just do email readings. Let's just see. Somebody sends me a picture. I talk about their colors to them. Let's just see. And it was resonating with them. And this is I think back in like 2013. So I was getting like more confident. And then I was thinking like, oh my gosh, like I'm helping people. Cause all of a sudden they're like, oh, I thought there's something wrong with me. Now I know that this is just how I am. And if I accept myself, my life will be, you know, better, more fulfilling. So if I focused on person to person to person, like who I was helping find themselves, or who I was just allowing them to feel heard or seen or loved or just validated by spirit, then that helped me. And even to this day, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, I just focus on the one-on-one. So that's how I came to this. I mean, and it just really, I guess, to the level where I'm at now versus when I started, that was just a lot of, I mean, I got on, like, being on Real Housewives helped a lot. I don't know what else to say. I guess, yeah, like that exposure was interesting, because then it was like, oh, like that. And the more myself I became and the more I was accepting of, listen, people are going to think what they think. Those aren't your people. It's okay. Don't focus on that. Focus on the good stuff. Then nicer opportunities started coming to me, and I would just try to take advantage of them. And here I am today. So
I really resonate with that. I also denied, suppressed, triangulated the work and my passions, and all I knew was that there was as I was going deeper into my 20s, that there was a cataclysmic discrepancy between what my life looked like and what my soul felt it should be doing, but I couldn't even chart it. You know, I wasn't even it now from my vantage, I can see that it was because I'm an artist. I'm a creative being. I express myself through wanting to help others, through the language of mysticism, and that these are truths baked so deeply into my architecture that anything that deviated from that was going to be totally inauthentic to me. But I was just trying to figure out, like, why am I broke? Why am I so, everyone else seems so excited about their jobs and I don't give a shit.
Yes.
Like, I don't feel I would get hired, especially earlier in my 20s. Like I would say, like, I'm a Capricorn rising. So it's like, I want to get something, I'm going to get it. So I was like, I want to work in this gallery. I want to do this thing. And it was things that I really thought intellectually I wanted to do. And then I would get there and be like, I'm not happy. And I couldn't, and I just thought that I was like, I just thought there was something wrong with me, and when since then, as I've unpacked it more, and I wrote about this a lot in my last book, This Is Your Destiny, I realized it was because I was so afraid of being judged for being who I was. So I kept putting these different costumes on to try to be different versions of myself. And the costumes would change. I had like my college costume, and then I had my right after college costume, and then I had an LA costume, and but it was always there were always these kind of facades. And for me, it's actually quite interesting to have this conversation at the time we're recording it, leading up to the full moon in Virgo, because it was a full moon in Virgo 5 years ago that I met my now fiance, who was the first person to say to me, like, this is cool. What you're doing is interesting and I like it. And that permission changed my life. So the permission, so that's what I like to really offer people too in my work, is the permission to be themselves, which it sounds like that's something that in your bio, that is also a huge part of your practice as well.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And it's interesting. My husband's the same way. So it's kind of like that other person in your life giving you, like you said, that permission or that support and all that to be yourself and to tell you that. And even if everything fell apart, it's like, well, you have each other, so it's just nice to always have that person. But yes, I do. I feel like people, and what you're talking about, like different versions of yourself, or like the Aliza costumes you were wearing, I guess like I would call them like inauthentic colors. Cause I'll like when I was teaching I'm purple indigo, but when I was teaching, I would wear a lot of inauthentic yellow. Yellow people are naturally organized, naturally get excited, probably like making bulletin boards with punny statements on it or something. Super not me. It just wasn't me. And I was surrounded by all these teachers like, oh my God, look at this. And then like, I was like, oh, they're so actually happy. Like, I really wish I could be this excited about a punny statement on a bulletin board, but I can't. And I was faking it. And so much energy gets drained when you're like going through the motions but I think what happens is the fear of, but I don't know what I want is sometimes scarier than if for a while, until you hit your point for a while, versus I'll just pretend. So it's like wearing the inauthentic colors and then being like, all right, well, I'll just play along, or I'll distract myself, or I'll just, I don't know, do whatever I got to do. That's usually not probably very healthy in order to just get through it. With me, I was doing a lot of borrowing other people's emotions. So I would borrow approval, or I would borrow other people's, being a people pleaser. Being an indigo, I can really like just absorb other people's stuff. So I was like, oh, they're satisfied, I'll just borrow that. So it wasn't ever my feelings, it was other people's feelings I was borrowing. And I thought they were mine for a really long time, and they weren't. And now I know the difference between like my feelings and other people's feelings. And that's freedom. That's been freedom for me. So
wow. In a comment, you told me that I'm a purple aura.
Oh, yes.
Would you say that does that stay true, consistent?
Yeah. So I see usually people are 2 aura colors, and nobody is the same. Like, the way I wear purple, the way you wear purple, it's like if I put on a sweater and you put on a sweater, or I wear perfume, and like it's always like nuances or differences. And it's always also based on like whatever your programming is and upbringing and how it works. Right, totally.
Which correlates with astrology 1-to-1.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So it's kind of like, I think when people, probably the same thing in your work, is like people give a blanket statement to something. It's like, well, like we can nuance that out for you like a lot. And then
Yeah.
it's also up to each person to figure out like, oh, how is this me versus you, even if we're the same sign or whatever. Anyways, so yeah, so purple, can I do your aura reading? Is that okay?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, I'm so excited. Okay. So you're so purple, like but it's like this beautiful, like radiating, and the texture and the light and the way that aura is shaped for me mean things too. So your light is very radiating. It's very beautiful. It's very big. And you have red too, but I'll talk about that in a second, because the purple is like your predominant color. And just the way that it's so shiny and large, I feel like it's hard sometimes. How do I put this? It can't really be contained. So I feel like sometimes you got to put a cap on it, just because we all live in this world or whatever, and you got to go do, I don't know, things to that keep the lights on or whatever. And I feel like for you, it can be really zapping or draining or whatever. When you were talking about being a creative, being an artist, I feel like with the way that you see things is extremely all sides at once. So I can't, I mean, and I don't, sometimes like jumping into your perspective a little bit, like I feel like the way that you see people and the way that you see situations, it's like being able to see all sides of a shape at the same time. So a lot of ability to see different perspective, but also a lot of ability to see intention. So with you, I feel like you're very quick and very, very quick to point out, and very accurate, of course, to point out like what someone's intention is immediately, which I feel like has been extremely helpful for you. It probably, especially as you've gotten more yourself and into your work more. Because I feel like you're really good at just picking up immediately like what the point is, what they want from you, who they are, and like where this is going. And I wonder for you if the amount of truth you get immediately sometimes can be overwhelming, because other people don't understand how clear it is to you. Does that make sense? Because I feel like you get truth extremely quickly.
I mean, I would have thought that you must have read something that I wrote, because it is that true. And I talk about that all the time, because it's, yeah. I mean, I think that a huge part of like my mission in this life is to, like if one were to synthesize the last book that I wrote and find a single word that comes up, probably like, do like the frequency of word bubble, I think it would probably be the word veracity. Truth telling is so core and so integral and so key to what I do that it almost transcends. It's almost like I found astrology because it was the best language to do truth telling, because it's almost like the truth telling is even more of a, what is the word that I'm trying to find? It's like mission than the astrology itself. So it's like you have different tools. I have my astrology tools, I have my tarot tools, I have my intuitive tools, but all of them really come down to like, what's the truth? I'm using these tools to help get and extract the truth.
Wow. Yeah. And I wonder with you too, just not everybody understands it, or people who don't have insecurities or they don't like truth. They think truth is mean, or they think truth is cruel, or they fear it, or they're scared of it. So immediately I feel like, and you're the sweetest person, but I can see with people, I guess, but this might be a tell for you. People that are scared of what they're hiding or what they don't want to know or whatever can be very stressed. Do you ever feel people in your presence like stress out a bit? And do you ever feel like you have to kind of like curtail your energy for them in the past versus probably now?
All the time. And I think what's really interesting with you sharing this, and I'm sure something our listeners will also really resonate with, because I talk about this a lot, is that a lot of our intuitive gifts and a lot of the expressions of who we are is so much a byproduct of our circumstances, our childhoods. And for me, I grew up in a very chaotic home. I grew up with addiction, and navigating those things when people are living in, when you're being gaslit a lot when you're a little kid, when people are doing really scary things and then they're telling you that they're not happening, but your energy is like, no, but something's wrong here, has made the urge and the urgency, I would say, to get to the truth, something that is also me tending to my child self, is like, what would my child self had needed? The truth, to understand what was going on, so that I wasn't just picking up on vibes that I couldn't that I couldn't practically identify in a way that was going to allow me to take care of myself.
Wow. That gives me chills. Like, I completely relate to what you're saying. It's like when you talk about that with with my own work, I don't think I could be here without my childhood the way that it was. And a lot of things you're talking about, I relate to. And just that feeling of being unsafe and that feeling of being unheard and unlistened to makes for me validation like an extremely important thing. And makes me the whole truth thing, like I would much rather the truth than a lie, because the lie represents chaos. But for a long time, the lie represented love. And I had to understand that, wait a second, lies and gaslighting, they're not love, but they were presented to me as love. So I had to rewrite what love was, which is hard. And it's something that you're supposed to know from early on and learn in those developmental stages of your life, not like in your 20s. So that's, wow, yeah, that's powerful. Well, you're red too. It's not a lot, it's just a little bit. Justice. Like, I feel like you're real good at like sticking up for the little guy and putting advocacy. And I feel like you do not, especially in the world that we're in, Aliza, like in our, I don't even know what to call it, like the spiritual world or whatever. Like, I feel like you're really good at how do I say? Yeah, like pointing out the things that are taking advantage of people versus pointing out the things that are like good for people, which I appreciate.
That is also very true. My integrity is like such an important part of my practice, and especially, at the time of this recording, we're navigating such scary global times, and I see so many people trying to, and not so many, but I see how people in our field could take advantage of people's fear and uncertainty, and it makes me sick, truthfully. It keeps me up at night. It makes me sick, I think. And then, also in our work, and it sounds like both you and I have been in these realms before they have been as ubiquitous on social media. It's very different now. It's really, a lot has changed. It's really, to amass a really large following is a very different skill set than to have intuitive or astrological or sort of mystical capabilities. Not to say they don't overlap, but they're not necessarily the same skills. So I do see that there's, a lot of people have learned how to do things over the last 2 years during the pandemic, and are now using that language to generate visibility for themselves. And something like a horrible, human rights atrocities in Ukraine are an easy way for people to speak to the collective consciousness anxiety. And I think it's really unethical. And to your point, it's like, I feel very, it's very unjust.
I completely agree with you. It stresses me. The way that I operate, it just stresses me out, and I don't know how to deal with it. And so I shut down a little bit, but I get upset. My husband has a red aura like you do. And he gets like angry and pissed off and just like really like, and I have to, I don't know, like, I appreciate the way that you say things and do things and present things, because it's very professional and it's very like, just here it is, and honest. And it's also very brave, because like you were saying, a lot of these people out there know what they're doing, and they're very quick to attack, and they're very quick to counterattack and whatnot. So I find myself sometimes paralyzed by it, like, oh my gosh, like I should say something, but maybe it's better not to give attention to it. Oh, I don't know what to do. Or my husband's like, oh my God, no, we have to say something. I'm like, I don't know. But I really looked to your account because I'm like, oh wow, she really said it. And she said it in such like a nice way. And she said it in such a way that's like, I guess, palpable for people, like digestible, and people can like understand it without, I guess, getting defensive. I don't know. Good job, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm like, good job, Aliza. And I just love it. And just know that when I'm looking at my phone, I'm like slow clapping for you. Like
that's so sweet. Thank you so much. I know that our listeners are going to want to know, because they asked this question, what the different aura colors are. And a follow-up question, I don't know if this is something that these go hand in hand or if this needs its own sort of beat to answer, is how do you know what your aura color is?
Okay, so there's 5 main aura colors and like 3 other aura colors, which I see. So it's red, blue, yellow, purple, and green. And then the 3 other ones are indigo, pink, and turquoise. So I have spent a lot of time because I see the colors and I can only go by what I see. So I tell people all the time, like, listen, this is what I see, and these are my interpretations from what I see. And I've spent a lot of time, I call it personifying the colors. So, and I say this all, it doesn't matter what color you are. It just matters the inward journey you take figuring yourself out in any realm, any spiritual thing. If you're taking the time to ask yourself really important questions and getting to know yourself, like that's a wonderful journey, not what somebody else tells you. I know you probably say the same thing. So like, I feel
but
like
it's important. It can't be said enough.
Yeah. So I just want to tell people that, like, to our other conversation, like, you don't have to rely on whatever somebody else tells you. You can, that your own connection with intuition is your connection with spirit. That is your connection inside. Anyway, so back to the colors. So I've spent a lot of time like trying to take all the colors and personifying them. So if you just go on, this is what my Instagram is dedicated to. It's just all a bunch of free stuff to like try to figure it out, my podcast, everything. And I do it so that you can see yourself and then understand, because aura colors rule everything. They rule from, it's like a filter on your life. It's just how you view the world versus somebody else. That's all. So it can rule how you communicate, how your motivation, how you like to work out. It can rule what jobs you do. It can rule how you talk to yourself. How I say auras are in the details. I can probably tell what aura color you are if I look at how your car is set up, or if I look at like how you put your wallet together. It's really in the tiny details how we work. You can find your aura color. So I try to put that all out there. Aura colors are just like a life force energy. It's like a signature, and we all have our unique energy signature. The other way you can tell aura colors is vibes. Even if you don't see colors, doesn't matter. The vibes are the most important thing anyways. We all can feel a vibe. We're animals, we're intuitive creatures, we're made of energy. If you can get back in touch with that, which is actually so natural, especially if you see children, just they don't question it. If you can get back to that as much as possible, you can feel people's vibes, and each color has a vibe. So red's vibe, the red vibe is like leader, very strong and powerful. So these are a lot of like entrepreneurs. These are sometimes politicians. These are public speakers. These are people who are doing, I guess, like really powerful things. Sometimes even like firefighters can be red. Blues, their vibe is very compassionate. These are like your nurses, your therapists, your healers. Purple vibe is very creative, very artistic. These people are a little spontaneous and fun and all over the place in a good way. Yellows, their vibe is inquisitive and self-help, and they're very to-do listy like that. They're what I would call the stereotypical organized people. Green people, their vibe is very intellectual. These people are usually really know a lot about a little area, a little field of study, but they know a lot about it. Very techie, very system-minded. Indigos their vibe is extremely, they're like empathic mind readers. They can just like immediately, these are the people that when you meet them, you start telling them your life story and they're like, oh, okay, you don't know why. Pinks, their vibe is very naive and innocent, like Britney Spears is a pink, you know, very like fun. They get taken advantage a lot by society. I see like Marilyn Monroe. It's just crazy. And turquoise's vibes are very reflective. They're usually, these are your energy healers, your Reiki healers, the people who are kind of more absorby and shoot your energy back out at you. Recycled.
So what's the difference between blue, purple, indigo, and turquoise?
So I call them, and this word got hijacked. Like you said, we were on probably doing this before TikTok. I was doing this before TikTok.
So, yeah, I mean, TikTok
okay.
is yesterday. This is where I'm almost at 10 years as an astrologer.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
All right, same. So the word empath, because I'm about to use it, got like hijacked and beat up and like really annoying to me. And I need to come up with a new word. We need, Aliza, we need to find a new word, somebody. But I call them the empath auras until I find my new word. These are the aura, and everyone has an empath color. So you could be two empath colors, or you could be one of the other colors with an empath color, but everyone has an empath color unless you're like not a cool person, which we could like list some of those. But empath, so what the difference is just kind of like this is where the nuances happen. So a blue person these are like nurses, therapists, teachers. They can handle a lot of energies at once coming at them. These are the people, like you were talking about Ukraine, these are the people you see at the front lines, like here's a blanket, here's soup, here's your bed, here's a hug, come on. They can handle it. Not saying they don't get burned out, it's just they can handle it. An indigo person can handle it for maybe a little bit and then they just disappear. They can't. It's just overwhelming. It's taxing because their energy barriers are way lower and their need to connect with somebody, not just surface comfort, I see you, give a hug, move on level. They need to kind of connect in like core, I need to heal you. So indigos, for example, they do better. I'm just trying to think like real world jobs, like as a speech therapist, for example, or like a reading specialist or something. They're working one-on-one with somebody for a long period of time from start to end. A purple, I say like purple people have this ability to look at life like it's a movie. So like you can watch a movie and be like, oh, it's really sad or it's really funny, but they know they're not in it. They know they're watching it. And that gives them this wonderful space to be able not to be influenced all the time by the other energies when they, strengthen this ability, when they strengthen their aura color, when they strengthen their energy. So these are people who usually are extremely intuitive and they can see something from the outside looking in and not be as affected by it. And turquoises, I say they're like reflectors. So these are the people that kind of like take in energy. Sometimes they'll even wear it and they'll become somebody that they're with, not in an inauthentic way. It's their way of actually processing somebody else's vibe so that they can shoot it out to you so that you can see yourself. The problem with turquoises is they do this and they don't know they're doing it. If they know they're doing it, it's a lot better for them. If they don't, they're wondering like, what am I doing? Why are people getting mad at me? Like, what's going on? Because they're constantly reflecting things that other people need to change in themselves without like, nobody likes that.
That's so interesting. I think that I know a lot. I think that there are a lot of turquoise people then in the spiritual community.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of, and just the nature of social media feels very turquoisey then to me, because it's so much mimesis, it's so much like, someone does something and then someone copies it and they don't even realize they're copying it. And then you look and you're like, you're using exactly the same language I just used. Like, Why did you just steal it?
No, the unbalanced turquoises are a real problem. And and listen, unbalanced colors, I'm not picking on any color, any aura color, because I could give examples for how each one could be an issue. But just, yes, what you're seeing on social media, that happens all the time. The thing is that, and this is why people have to be so careful on social media. Like you really have to like, who am I connecting with? Who am I following? What am I reading? Like, who is this? I don't think people do that. But if they do that, then then you can pick it up easier. Like, where'd you get this from? Like, why is this post completely different from this post? Like, where's your direction here?
Right,
so,
right. So interesting. So how could people figure out? I know that on your Instagram, you do post wonderful resources. And to be honest, after you commented purple, I was like, all right, let's get in there. And I was using your bingo cards.
Oh, yes.
And everything completely checked out for me. And then I was like, but let's test it. And no, purple really did check out.
Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, I have like Aura Bingo. I have like, I mean, I put up I try to put up so much stuff so that if you just stick around a while, probably at mine or your Instagram, like you'll figure it out, and you'll figure out how it resonates to you. Or, I think we call it aura-splaining over in my community. Like we aura-splain people. I think it helps if you see it in other people too. And you're like, okay, well, if I can't figure myself out, because sometimes that's hard, let me figure my best friend out. Let me figure my dad out. Sometimes other people are easier. Another thing I do is I tell people to go to their inner child. So what does that mean? It means, how were you as a kid? Little Aliza or whoever's how were you truly as a child? Now you got to walk back, and sometimes that's not fun, but thinking about the things that you loved or how you used to play or the thoughts you had in your head or things like that. And one of my favorite episodes I did was called Your Kid's Aura, where I talked about how kids are an aura color. So many people are like, I figured out my color from that episode, because it's like,
oh wow,
it's like easier, it's like easier to see yourself like, oh my gosh, I always do that with my Barbies, or that's how I was with animals. Or I see a lot of blue kids, for example, like personifying non-living objects. Like, I don't know, I had a hard time throwing out this, or I was a hoarder because it's little things like that, or I was super organized. So I think and that's why I love auras, because it forces you to explore all these parts of yourself that are a little bit like unheard or unloved, or the parts of yourself you put away because you think, oh, those are messy or disorganized. And then you find out like, no, those are my beautiful parts. Those are the things that actually have to come out so I can find all the opportunities and all the right people who will love me exactly how I am without me having to hide it. So yeah, so you can figure it out. And then like my very, there's Aura Bingo. Like that, I made those. So it was like the easiest way. I'm like, all right, people, here's bingo. Okay. Like everyone likes bingo, play Aura Bingo, see what you score highest on, your top two.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. Okay, another question from a listener is, and for those listening who want to submit questions, follow our new Instagram account, which is starslike.us. And each time we have a guest on, we post a little teaser, not of who the guest is, but of what they do to sort of have blind submissions. So for listeners who are interested in doing that, please follow the new account. It's only been, I've had this podcast casually for 3 years, just started its own Instagram account, no problem.
Good job.
Thank you. So another question is, do auras change?
So what I'll see, okay, they're not really supposed to change too much. Evolve, yes. Like the placements and the way that they move on you and how you hold them, yes. But usually like I always ask in a reading for someone's childhood picture, because I want to see if you did change. Because if you did change, it tells me so much about what happened to you in your life. So they can change, but they're not really supposed to. And when they do change actual colors, sometimes that's a childhood trauma. Something happened in life that you had to put on a color or adopt one, or it's armor or some other trauma that happened and you're wearing a certain color for a while. And that's different than like inauthentic colors, which we try to wear to fit into a job, like we were talking about earlier, or to fit in a certain relationship or a certain friend group or a certain major in college or something. So I'll see people generally, if the most balanced and the people that have the most self-awareness are the ones that aren't wearing inauthentic colors. And you can be self-aware and have an inauthentic color, but you got to know it's there. Mm-hmm. So And all that means, it's just like aura speak for when you're trying to fit into contexts that weren't meant for you. Like if you see that you're trying to do something and it's not because, and it's for some sort of environmental or outside purpose because you feel like you're not equipped to survive as you actually are, that's a huge source of power for you. So if you can see that, then it helps you. But yeah, they're not supposed to change, but you know, the changes help me in a reading because then I can figure out exactly like what's going on with you or what's happening or why.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that it wouldn't change casually.
No.
It would
You're right.
require some massive shift to have happened.
Yeah, the way I see it. Now people go like, because they'll, I don't know if this is another question, the aura photos, people always ask me about that. So like you go to Sedona, you get your aura photography done. It's like orange and green and yellow. Okay, like I, like for me, and I think those are fun pictures and I'm like, go for it. That's cool. Good for you. Like, that's fine. That's just different than what I do. You know, I'm more about.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Okay.
I know that, you know
Okay.
that, but I do think maybe we should tell our listeners that.
Yeah, it's a question I get all the time because people will send me like a picture of this like crazy aura and I'm like, hey, cool photo. That was awesome. That probably was fun. But a couple things can happen. One, I don't know the technology of those things. And I can only ever speak to what I see. So I'm more about the vibes. Do those energies correlate with vibes you get on yourself or what other people would say about you? Also, a lot of us can pick up other colors as we go through our day. It's just kind of something, you're out in public, you're kind of like, ooh, it's hard always to be kind of yourself. So you might be with a stronger energy person or something like that. And then you can wear that in the photo. So I don't often agree with the aura photos. I just had to put that out there, but I think that they're fun. And I think, again, anything that brings you insight is super cool. So just different from how I see colors.
Totally. I mean,
and teach people to see them.
Yes, I have had my aura photo done a few times and have had totally different colors show up. And as someone who, you know, I'm not a photographer, but when I studied art in college and I spent a lot of time with photography. It's part of my Pisces moon is that we love photography. We love cameras and the imprints of things. So I spent a lot of time in a dark room and I understand the chemical process of Polaroid and film photography. And I also understand how the way that on the inside of those machines could work is going to not necessarily be a one-to-one of someone's entirety. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could be maybe a snapshot of that moment, but even how that moment snapshot is interpreted is, you know, I mean, it's the same with all of these things. Like you can go to a bubblegum machine and put 25 cents in. I don't know if those even still exist, and put 25 cents in and get a fortune, you know? And is that fortune the same as sitting with a psychic medium? It's not, you know, but it's cool. It's fun to do. It's like it's an activity. And it's something that I think people might, you know, it's an enjoyable or eye-opening or, you know, maybe gateway experience, but it is not the entirety of the experience.
Right. Right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's fun.
I have a question for you, which is so you have been seeing these auras and working with your own system of personifying them. Is there a shared language around them? Like, would another person who reads auras see red or blue or yellow or green in the same way that you do? Or is it really person to person?
That's a good question. Children see them the way that I do. So if you ask like a 2-3-year-old, like a kid that can talk, but one that's not like so into the adult world yet, which is sad. It's happening earlier and earlier these days. if you're like, hey, what color's mommy or something, or what color's auntie, and then just see what they say. What do you see? They won't miss a beat. Like, honestly, just try it and just point to the top of your head or something, like, what do you see? What color am I? Pink, like they'll just say it. And usually I will agree with them a lot. I get a lot of listeners and clients and stuff who are like, oh, my kid said I was the same thing you just said. And I'm like, yes. Sometimes people's favorite colors are the same colors as their aura, because you just kind of intuitively connect to that color vibration. Do other people see? I mean, I don't know, because I think like a lot of the aura stuff right now, it's kind of all over the place, and it's not like what you do. You know what I mean? Where there's like definitions for things, and then you can take your own, I guess, like, you can dive in it the way that you dive in it, or put your style on it, or however I think like with auras, it's just like, I feel like I'm alone in a boat doing it myself. And then like other, and I have like,
that sounds very indigo.
Yes, it does. I just speak aura. Yeah. And now like everybody who like listens or follows me, they can do it too, the way I do it. And then like sometimes people will say like they start seeing colors the way I see colors. So I'm like, oh, that's great. So I don't know if it's exactly something that's a science or whatever. Like I said, I only just speak for what I see. And like I said, it doesn't always matter like what the colors are. If somebody tells you you're, I don't know, rainbow and turquoise, be like, well, after that, what did they say, and does that make sense for you?
Right.
I think are there definitions of what they just said, do they resonate with you? Because if they don't resonate, then let it go, or don't take what somebody else's colors are and then come over to like what somebody else told you and then come over to my page and expect it to be the same. Maybe like you should ask them like, well, what does that mean, and then just get their interpretations. Maybe they see colors different than I do. I don't know. So I don't know. Yeah, because I don't get a lot of I don't have like a lot to look at, I guess, to study.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I could imagine that being on one hand really liberating, and then on the other hand really isolating.
Yeah, so having the podcast and stuff has helped me a lot with that, because now everybody who listens like speaks aura. So I'm like, okay, I'm not, now I can say something. I'm not the crazy person anymore. For a long time, I had all these aura euphemisms and stuff for myself, and I couldn't share them with anybody. It was just my own secret, sad, lonely language. now I'm like, oh my God, people understand. This makes me feel so, I guess, like, like not alone, like you said, not isolated.
Have you ever met anyone who does not have an aura?
Yeah. Well, okay. That's such a good question. Again, I could only say what I see, but I just did an episode about, and we just like rehashed the Amityville horror. And I looked at one of these really horrible person who committed this really awful crime in the house, and they had no aura. And down here, there was this awful school shooting on Valentine's Day a few years ago in Parkland High School. And the shooter, when I look at him, he has no aura. And sometimes I'll see people that have no aura. And this is where I leap, because you tell me, I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not a therapist. I'm nothing like that. The way that I interpret it is that their energy left them and something really bad can channel in. I don't know what that is. So I feel like it's kind of like when you lose your sovereignty, which does not happen often, other things can drive that bus. So when I see somebody without an aura, I run the other way.
Wow.
Which isn't often. Mm-hmm.
Shit. I mean, I really have goosebumps, and I think this might be one of the scariest things that I've ever heard in my life.
It's scary. Casually. Like I will like, it happened, I want to say a year or so ago. Auras for me, I'm so used to seeing them that they don't pop out at me unless they're weird. So I was in the parking lot with my daughter a few years ago, and maybe a year, I don't remember when. And I saw this guy coming at us, and he was like a vortex of darkness, like his aura. It was like so scary. And I just grabbed her and we ran. I was going to the gym. I grabbed her and we went to the gym. And he was following me. And I told the front desk, I'm like, this guy's not good. And they're like, what? Huh? Like, and like, what? Like, I'm crazy. And I take her and my plan was to go into the bathroom, wait till he left, and then leave. And I'm not like this. I'm not a reactive person. And I'm really good at like shutting things down and just moving forward or whatever. But this guy had a really freaky aura and he scared me. And it wasn't, I don't know, it was like a storm aura. I've never seen anything like it since. Well, anyways, he got into this huge fight in the gym with somebody and the police had to be called. And I'm like, I told you guys. And they just like look at me like, you're crazy, you know, because people don't know. And I'm like, I told you guys he wasn't right. Like there's something wrong with him. So how does that work for everybody? Even if you can't see auras, if you get a bad feeling about somebody, you got to trust it, because that guy had a vibe too. Even though the front desk people didn't see it, like that guy had a vibe, and you have to pay attention to that. I think a lot of people close their eyes to things and close their gut to things in life, and that's their most important tool.
Yeah. Right. I mean, what I always say is that it's our evolution. It is an evolutionary ability that we have. It's not even mystical. It's scientific. It's biological. It is our evolutionary ability to be able to pick up on things, because we as human animals have instincts, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I have this friend and she's a doctor, and a doctor, she's a psychologist, and she's like, never shut down a kid, always listen to kids. So if like a kid's like, he's weird, don't say that's not nice, like just listen to them, because they're picking up on something, you know. Like if a kid's like, I don't like him, I don't like that, like you listen to that, because like they're picking up on something that's important. Or an animal, you know, or anything, like your pets, all that, they pick up on things and they don't question it, which makes them very powerful. Our programming, our societal programming gets in the way and it weakens us. So like what you're saying, getting back to our animal instincts, and it is science. I mean, you could call it science. I think that's completely true. And maybe that comforts people that don't want to use the word intuition or something. It's like, fine, it's science. Just listen to it, because it's everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. So now I have two questions for you. The first is, what do you believe in?
Okay. So I believe that, I guess, the closer and more comfortable you are with yourself, the better the universe will treat you. I 100% believe that.
I love that. Beautiful answer. Question number two is, how does magic show up in your life?
So many little places. I see it with my kids. I see it with my cats. Every day I try to really find magic in the small moments. And back to what I was talking about at the beginning, like honestly, when life gets me down or when something's going on, I just try to focus on one person at a time. So I see magic in my clients. I see magic in my listeners. I see magic in the people I get to connect with. I see magic in you.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful answer. It has been such a treat getting to know you and having you on the show. Where can our listeners find you and continue to connect?
My Instagram is at Mystic Michaela, and my podcast is Know Your Aura with Mystic Michaela.
Thank you so much.